Shame on you, Mr. President. The 10 most high-profile sex scandals from the lives of US rulers. Hello, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about what sex scandals American presidents have been involved in throughout US history. Which president had sex with a black slave who had children with him? Is it true that age didn't matter to some statesmen and the difference was up to 30 years? You will also learn which president was impeached for sexual harassment in the late 90s. Be sure to watch the video to the very end to find out all the details of the love affairs of 10 US presidents. John Adams. You will be surprised, but the statesman not only ruled the country. John Adams was engaged in law, initiated the abolition of slavery in the US, and was also listed as a figure in the War of Independence. Among other things, the second president of America lived quite a long life, 90 years. But his strange act is still known. In 1800, John Adams instructed his friend to go to Europe. The truth is not for political purposes, but to satisfy the pleasure of the ruler. Adams wanted his friend to bring him a mistress, and even found money for the trip from the government account. But things didn't go according to plan. The secret was revealed, and John Adams could not be re-elected to a new presidential term. Thomas Jefferson, the third founding father of the American state, who ruled at the beginning of the 19th century, also did not go unnoticed. His passion for French women knew no bounds. One of them was Maria Cosway, a famous artist in Paris. But what is most striking is that Thomas Jefferson became intimate with a black slave girl. The girl's name was Sally Heming. She was only 14 years old at the time. And this despite the fact that the president was already officially married and had 5 daughters. By the way, Sally Heming was a maid and nanny for Thomas Jefferson's children. In time, she gave birth to children and by the founding father of the United States. At least to date, this has been confirmed by DNA testing. Subsequently, Jefferson's reputation declined because he didn't abolish slavery, although he was in favor of the initiative to give freedom to black people. As they say, did not fulfill his promises in reality. James Garfield. After the 2 most high-profile sex scandals of the US founding fathers, it was as if there was a lull. And it lasted until the 1980s, until James Garfield took over the presidency. What's most interesting is that the man's affair was discovered by his lawful wedded wife. The woman once cleaned up the house and purely by chance found the letters. They were written by the mistresses of James Garfield. But that's not all. The wife at least twice recognized her girlfriends, who sent love letters to the president. In addition to the correspondence, James Garfield had a mistress. She turned out to be an 18-year-old girl working in the editorial office of the New York Times. The statesman more than once got intimate with her, Grover Cleveland. A few years after Garfield's presidency, the post was occupied by Grover Cleveland, his future spouse, the man knew since birth. You will ask, how is this possible? Well, it's very simple. Frances Clara Folsom was born in the family of Grover Cleveland's best friend. The latter regularly visited his friends and their daughter gave valuable gifts. But soon, there was a tragedy. The girl's father died, and Cleveland did not leave 11-year-old Frances to her fate. The president became her guardian. Naturally, it was too early to get married. That's why Grover Cleveland had to wait. 10 years passed. The girl grew up and then entered college. That's when the newlyweds played a wedding right in the White House. At that time, the age difference between the Clevelands was 28 years. Warren Garding. And now, let's go back to the last century. Next in line is another figure who is known not so much for his politics as for the shocking details of his personal life. This time, let's talk about the 29th President of the United States, Warren Garding. First, the man maintained intimacy with the wife of his friend. The woman's name was Carrie Phillips. Love affairs began a few years before the entry of Garding to the presidency. And when in 1921 Warren became president, Phillips insisted on a divorce from his official wife. Carrie wanted to become the First Lady in America. But Warren Garding realized that in this case, his reputation would fall significantly. The president paid the woman a huge sum of money to keep her from blabbing to the people. After Mrs. Phillips, guarding didn't stop. He found himself a mistress, Nan Britton, who was the daughter of the president's friends. The age difference between the lovers is striking, 31 years. Garding's passion for the girl knew no bounds, and they became intimate even in the check room of the White House. When the president did not become, Britton in one of his monographs made a statement. The woman confessed, "The father of her daughter just is Warren Garding." A few years later, DNA analysis confirmed the words of Nan Britton in full, Franklin Roosevelt. The statesman, whose reign fell on the years of World War II, attributed to numerous love affairs on the side. The man repeatedly became the center of female attention, and therefore didn't do without intimacy. But most of all, the 32nd President of the United States paid attention to Lucy Mercer. Mistress supported the man in a difficult period of life when Roosevelt's health deteriorated due to partial paralysis. And although Mercer constantly persuaded the president to divorce his lawful wife and marry her, Franklin Roosevelt did not do so. John F. Kennedy. You know, it's hard to believe, but even such an influential president was dating on the side. John Kennedy is attributed to connections with such famous personalities as Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, and others. By the way, there is a version that Marilyn Monroe was killed because of a close relationship with John F. Kennedy. So, the 35th President of the United States was characterized by charisma, external attractiveness, and material well-being. That is why he was not squeamish and tried not to miss a single skirt in the White House. Jacqueline Kennedy, the official wife and First Lady of the President, often turned a blind eye to the adventures of her husband. Although the marital union of the Kennedy spouses was considered almost a standard in the 50s, 60s of the last century. Lyndon Johnson. After the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963, Lyndon Johnson became President of the United States. For 3 decades, the man kept in touch with his mistress Alice Glass. But the woman did not support the war in Vietnam, and therefore the love paths between people separated. Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford is attributed to love affair with Ellen Romeck, except that one circumstance hindered the president, and a serious one at that. It turned out that the official spouse of Mrs. Romeck was directly related to espionage. Soon, Ellen was shown the exit, and for her peculiar way of life, she left the borders of America. Bill Clinton. Do you know the reason for the impeachment of the 42nd President of the United States? It turns out that Bill Clinton in 1998 became intimate with intern Monica Lewinsky. Moreover, the hints and demands clearly struck the girl so much that she publicized it to the public. And yes, the girl was supported by other female representatives of the female sex who were harassed by the president. And even though there was collected enough evidence of Bill Clinton's guilt, he denied the fact. As a result, the man was removed from his official position. Conclusion. Thus, even US presidents who took the oath of office allowed themselves something more. For this purpose, they had mistresses and being married. It all started with the founding fathers and continued until the beginning of the 21st century.